to all the viewers here present offline and also to the future viewers who will be seeing it online. My name is Karthik Raghavendran, and as they introduced me, I run a company called Neuroscience. And if you ask me to describe what we're doing, we're dealing with one of the most interesting organs of the human body. As I stand here, I'm recollecting one of my incidents that happened in my middle school. I was having a conversation with a group of friends, and there was one person who asked this question: if God comes in front of you and asks you or wishes you for a superpower, what would you ask for? And there were like some of my friends who were mentioning invisibility as one of the things. And there was the other person who was asking, I could just clear all the exams without writing it. And we had some very interesting answers from my group of friends. And I was naive at that time, and my answer to that question was, if I really had an opportunity to encounter such a situation, I would ask the superpower of changing my own mind. When I look back at the young kid who was mentioning this as the answer, probably he would have made that statement out of naivety, but when I look back, I see how true that is. It's really hard to change our own minds. And also, when I look back, little did I know at that point that my entire adult career is going to be focused on just 3 words: change my mind. Okay, so in the next 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to take you through a story of darkness to light. And I want to extract some of the experiences I have had in the pursuit of light from darkness. And I will let you as the audience take away whatever you see as a potential perspective from it. So all of us at some point in our lives have experienced bouts of darkness, right? When I mean darkness, it's a metaphoric term to use, but when I mean darkness, it's about a space in which we feel really scared. We are stuck at some point. For an entrepreneur, it might be some blockers which is stopping him to move to the next phase of his job. As a simple human being, it can be bouts of darkness in your family or in other spaces of life. And when you feel really hard to move forward. And I've been encountered with similar such scenarios. And when I was craving or in the pursuit of light, I've had some very interesting encounters and experiences. And this search of light actually took me at a very early age to research a lot about human mind, human behavior, human brain, ranging from that to macroeconomics and understanding how the world works and why is it dark for me and how to escape out of it, get out of it. So I've read through a lot of books and research around this area. And I've had 3 very important encounters that I consider in my life, which actually revealed something very interesting to me. Encounter number 1. As a CEO of a company, I'm responsible to take multiple decisions in a day, ranging from your business activities to product and innovation. And similarly, one day one of my colleagues came in and asked me to take a decision on a particular thing. And I said, yeah, X is my decision, you can just go ahead and execute it. But I didn't feel somewhat right at that point. So what I did was, I put on my headset and I tried to start breathing very slowly. I tried to inhale very slowly and exhale really slowly. And I did that for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then I took a pen and a paper and wrote down a decision. Very interestingly, the decision which I took 10 minutes before and the decision which I wrote after 10 minutes was completely contrasting. This is the encounter number 1. I'd keep it there. Encounter number 2. I've been practicing meditation for some amount of time, and I've, to an extent, was curious to understand the depths of it. And when we say meditation outside, people just think it's about closing your eyes and trying to relax yourself and staying silent and de-stressing. There have been a lot of definitions for it. But I've had certain experiences where it made me feel meditation is a process which I can compare it like a wormhole, where which could take you to experience different dimensions of your own mind, right? Encounter number 2, meditation. Encounter number 3. During my undergrad, I got an opportunity to do my internship in Japan at the National Institute of Material Sciences. And while I was doing the internship there, I was trying to do an odd experiment on myself. So every day when I wake up, I start writing down on a scale of 0 to 10, how much is my mood and how much is my focus and relaxation. Just writing it down. And I do that for every 2 hours in a single day. Okay. And I did the first set for 2 weeks. And it was very weird to note that most of my scores were below 5. And I was trying to understand why it was like that. So I decided to try something new. I had some variables in my lifestyle, which is sleep and what I eat and what I'm getting myself exposed to. So I decided to pick up one variable, which is sleep. And I was sleeping at that time for about like 6 hours a day. So in the upcoming weeks, I tried to tweak it, 6, 6.57, 7.58. And interestingly, when I did 7 hours per day of sleep, the scores came from below 5 to around like 6 to 7. Encounter number 3. If you look at all the different encounters, the first one was about tweaking using breathing or music to get into a different state. The second one was about meditation. And the third one was about self-experimentation, using changing lifestyle. So if you look at the pattern, and I started looking at commonality between all the three, the common point was that is the switch. The switch to change your state of mind. And my research into getting or the pursuit of light then took me to the switch. Okay, if there is a switch, which you can term it as mental state or cognitive state, why is it so important, right? So which took me to this wonderful thing called the golden circle. If you haven't heard about the golden circle, it's very simple, 3 questions, why, how, and what, to approach any instance or any problem that you're going through, right? So now for me, it was kind of getting clear that if I have to really change my mind, I need to focus on the switch. So now it's about the why, how, and what of the switch. Why? Why do I need to change my mind? And the answer was pretty clear for me. If I'm able to stay at my best mental state, I take better decisions, better choices, better financial choices, better health choices, better professional choices, and better decisions as a son, as a sibling, as a citizen, anything. And our lives are defined majorly by the set of decisions and choices that we take. And our mental state deeply influences it. So my aspiration was pretty simple. I want to stay at the best mental state each and every day, and then see how that could lead to better decisions in my life. Which took me to human brain. As I mentioned at the start, human brain is one of the most fascinating organs in the human body. And before getting into the details of human brain, hope all of you would have read something about the brain and the mysteries of the brain. But I would like to quote 2 examples that I have personally encountered, which made me get so much surprised and passionate about the brain. The one is the famous experiment called the London taxi driver experiment. So basically, there are different cab drivers in London who are so familiar with the routes, who they get exposed to the routes very well, and at any instance, they get so familiar with the routes. If you ask them a particular place to go, they know it, even if it's in the nook and corner. Neuroscientists observed a very interesting phenomenon then, that if you take brain imaging or brain scans of their brains, a specific region in the brain called the hippocampus, which is responsible for memory and related things, anatomically their hippocampus were larger in size. And it was not by birth. Due to constantly exposing themselves and remembering all these locations, they were able to change the size of the hippocampus, right? What is this phenomenon? They call it neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the ability for neurons to reshape and rewire itself if you get it exposed to a new environments. Number two is one of my favorite experiments done by one of the most renowned neuroscientists in the world, Dr. V.S. Ramachandran, who was the director of brain and cognition at the University of California, San Diego. And this experiment, or this disorder, was so-called pain asymbolia. So one of the things that he mentioned in his book as a part of the research is that there was one patient in India whom he observed a very distinctively different phenomenon. He took a needle and asked the patient to give his hands and try to prick the hand with the needle. Usually the response for this kind of scenario would be that you take your hand away because it's paining, or at least the maximum it's itching if it's even a milder pain. But what interestingly happened is he tried to prick the person harder and the person started laughing, right? It's the ultimate irony of life where you laugh in pain. But the interesting, and he started researching why is that happening. Interestingly, he found that the neural connections, the nerves which are carrying the signals to the pain center of the brain is connected differently to the center which is responsible for laughter. It is just differently wired, right? A very simple phenomena which is differently wired creates an ultimately different psychological experience for the patient. Two scenarios, and I'll leave it to you to amuse with the beauty of human brain, right? Okay, now the question is, how do we change it? How do we change our mind using our brain? We all know that brain is a command center, and it has a heavy influence or huge influence in your mental states. And for this, here comes the theory that I like to describe as self-economics. When we look at how to change human brains, I generally look at, say, top-level athletes like Virat Kohli or Ronaldo or Djokovic. On the other side, we also have our ancient monks and rishis who have experienced different states of mind. And we can also call our artists and athletes who has shown us what is impossible, right? So these are some of the best places where I can study different states and what's happening. But when I say self-economics, if you've heard about the term macroeconomics, it's about studying the world at scale, human behavior and interaction, how institutions are positioned, how money flows in the system, and why certain things are happening in this world. It's called the study of macroeconomics, right? How energies and resources are allocated and stuff. And I've always been interested in macroeconomics because if you want to change, as a young kid, I always wanted to change the world. But for changing the world, you need to understand the world. And without understanding macroeconomics, you can't understand the world. And when I term self-economics, it's about how human body is managed. You have 8 systems in the human body. And you have billions of cells, microbes, everything inside, which is interacting with each other, which is having an own world of its own, to create the output, which is me talking to you in front of you. So, and again, taking analogy from macroeconomics, there are people who are putting out satellites in orbit to actually view Earth from different places. So what are the outputs of it? Some of the basic outputs are predicting whether there's going to be rainfall and looking at a terrain region. And there are multiple applications of putting satellites. You can view the Earth from outside, right? So, and I consider tools which can act as satellites for the human body. And I'm so privileged and honored to be building one such tool, which I consider the satellite of human body. And to be more precise, satellite for human brain. The device that's seeing in front of you is actually the output of the pursuit which I was talking before, which is trying to build a neural tracker to really identify your mental state. And this neural tracker here has sensors which can measure your brain activity. And also it captures other signals from different systems like your cardiac and respiratory as well. And the objective for me was very simple: to put out these devices out in the market and try to understand the patterns of, say, athletes, artists, executives, and people who are so-called peak performers, to really understand how they are able to stay at their peak. And what are some of the strategies that they use to actually make sure they sustain it. And this is one such funny image taken in our company back in the IT Madras campus in Chennai. And this is me playing chess with one of our team members, who's also Grandmaster. His name is Grandmaster Vishnu Prasanna, who's the former coach of Gukesh, the world champion. So we are playing a match by using this neural tracker on both of our heads, trying to monitor our mental state. And we noticed some weird scenarios of how he was able to kind of easily beat a match and why I was still struggling. And we were actually trying to look at both our reports and try to understand what's happening. So that was the first step, basically to understand what's happening. And this is just an example of how cognitive biomarkers look in case if you haven't dealt with cognitive health markers. So it's more about, so the tracker basically measures your readiness levels. It's more about mental readiness and whether you're able to sustain the zone, you're able to sustain your attention and focus, you're able to remain calm, and you're able to recover well post a match. And this can be applied to any scenarios. For an artist, it can be creating music. For students, it can be during, while your preparation. Yeah. So the next step is once we start understanding, once we start getting closer to mental state, it actually took me to the idea of whether we can, if this really has to be useful, there has to be two things done. And the entire objective is to change my own mind, right? The first thing, if you see the image over here, it's about the age of empires. And one of the ideas that I've always had is, can we gamify the entire human body? And there are different systems which you can, from a macroeconomic point of view, different systems could be considered as different countries. And how are you going to make sure they coordinate and stay in peace and harmony so that it gets to your best? So one of the things that we're also trying to do is gamify the entire process. So at the end, even if you have access to all the information about your mental state and you keep on progressing, tracking over a period of time, towards the end, I'm coming back to the same question: how do you change your mind? That's the pursuit. And the answer is here. And this is the future of health, of AI, of preventive health, of peak performance, is to train your body with personalized insights. Everyone's body is different. For example, I can give you a very personal scenario which I had. When I was really, when I'm dealing with a tough situation, and I'm like probably mildly depressed about it, and there are some times when I talk to myself and it works, and sometimes it doesn't, right? Sometimes I've had a friend who just goes and do a running, and then she's far better in terms of taking decisions to improve their health. So there are various ways in which a person can train themselves. And we have known for years in history that breathing, which is dealing with the respiratory system, and exercising, which deals also with your musculoskeletal, and it's so interactive, all the systems work in cohesion. And nutrition, which is one of the major things. And so right now, for example, before coming to the talk, I was very, very specific in what foods get into my body so that I stay focused and I'm in the zone while giving this talk, right? And carbs are one of the major factors which kind of bloats you down. After, like if you want to give a talk, you better avoid it. So there are a few hacks like this to deal with different systems of your body, which helps you eventually get better. And it all happens in training. And the future, when I mentioned the word personalized, it's going to be the use of these satellites, all these sensors, which is going to help you get into a peak state of self-awareness on what's happening with your body. And when you do all the experiments on yourself, when you start training, is it really working out for you? And these satellites are going to be the star of this century. Combined with the AI, you have a huge way to explore your own body. And I've always believed in that we wanted to change the external world out there, but the starting point is changing the world within. And that's something I personally believe in. And for changing something, you need to understand. You need to see what's happening. And tools like this are going to be the future. So in the past few years, I've also had a chance to interact and meet with some top-level athletes. And also professionals across different industries who are playing at the top. And one of the things that I felt is there are two important points, which is the level of self-awareness that they have over their own body and mind. And the second point is they know what to do to activate the switch. The switch to get into the zone, the switch to attract the right thoughts, the switch to help you make better decisions. They're very aware of it. So now the question is, can I bring the ideas and perspectives that an elite athlete or a performer have to you and me? Is one single mission that we have. And that's what we are going. And if we are able to do it, that's the winning moment. For myself personally, if I'm able to achieve it, and if I'm able to take that to scale for people, that's one of the most satisfying, that'll be the most satisfying moment of my life. Coming back to the switch, I still believe the switch exists. And even if you try so hard of changing your life, if the switch is not on, you're going to find it difficult. So I'd like to end my talk by trying to get your attention back to the switch, which is your state, mental or cognitive state. And once we try focusing on that and use that information as an advantage to kind of change our behaviors, we could do wonders. And I'd like to end the talk with a quote from one of my favorite series, Harry Potter. And this is a quote from Albus Dumbledore. And the quote says, "Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one remembers to switch on the light." So I'd like to end with that. Let's all switch on and be at our best version of ourselves. Thank you.